I did my dissertation review over a dissertation entitled A Self-Exploration of the Relationship Between Art Teaching and Artistic Practice. Now, this was a dissertation for a doctoral degree of education by Christy Ortiz at the University of Houston in Texas, and the year is 2008. Ms. Ortiz posed the question that she's noticing over the past few years, over the past 5 years, that her teaching ability and her ability not only to gain new knowledge about her subject, but her own ability and time to create her personal art are all declining since she had become a high school art teacher. The rationale for the problem that she posed, for the question that she posed, is that as a teacher begins to self-questioning her ability or to be an effective art teacher, teaching topics with little to no knowledge, she has limited opportunities to gain knowledge and a lack of energy or time to create personal artworks. Uncovering these issues prompted the author to look back on her experiences in the past 5 years and reflect on the changes that had occurred. The artistic media that she works in primarily is visual art. More specifically, she teaches advanced photography to high school and also some beginner art techniques to high school students. The method that she uses on this reflection research is a qualitative research. More specifically, it's a research called self-study. Now, the author employs this self-study to examine her professional practices as a teacher and as an artist. It is meant to see how these experiences affect her abilities as a high school art teacher. She reflects back 5 years on her teaching career, her own personal art education, and how her teaching practices now compares to how she learned during her own art education. Not only in her teaching, but also her attitude towards the subject is what she's reflecting upon. She provides reflections not only from herself, but also from other teachers in the form of stories and narratives. The validity of the research is really based upon the sources that she provides for the subject of self-study research. Now, it's sort of a type of research that's not always, validated, because it is very opinion based. It's very, it's a personal reflection is what it is. The sources that she provides are where she really hopes to provide validity for her entire research study. Most of the self-study aspects of the research seem to be very reflective of her own personal experience, and the subject is sort of unreliable in a sense. Through the author's research, she was able to acknowledge her own problem with her own art. The author keeps a journal during the 2 months where she was writing the dissertation, and also an artistic portfolio. And as she's reflecting upon the past 5 years, upon the changes that have gone on in her attitude towards the art and her attitude towards teaching, she notices that she's starting to make changes to her own art, and she's actually, I guess in a sense, finding time for herself, finding time to create, and this in turn makes her come to the realization that this self-reflection has helped her find her own identity and help reignite her love for creating her own art, and in turn, creating her own art, it helps her find a new love for teaching. She finds that maybe the teaching just strictly technique and stuff is not really what she's completely in love with. Instead, she's rather teaching the creativity side of it, and she's really helping the students find their own identity through her own research. She believes that continuing to investigate the subject of self-study and the subject of reflection and stuff like that, that the issues of art teaching and artistic practice, where if our teachers will continue the conversations and help provide themselves and others with a space to create art, then we'll expand upon, teaching creativity in the classroom, and really help art teachers keep their own identity, yet pass on this trade and these artistic endeavors to their students. Such an approach will assist them developing healthy identities without compromising themselves as teachers or artists. She also concludes that the self-study as a discipline is a useful tool to uncover any areas that might have a teacher or an artist might struggle with. The author concludes that investigating one's own practices through self-studies can inspire art teachers to re-examine their practices and develop their own studio practices. Other subjects that the author talked about were things like teacher knowledge, art making as knowledge, teacher practice, the impact of professional development on teacher identity and artist identity, the qualitative research method and narrative inquiry, and also artography, which is it's a form of art where photography is used as sort of like collages and things like that as an art form. It's not just a photograph, but it's a work. These are all sort of under the big umbrella of her main topic of self-study and self-reflection. The main idea of the research is really solid. It's I can see why she wrote the dissertation, and it's an enjoyable read as far as just reading it as something to gain knowledge from. But I thought that the main question of the research was good, but I wouldn't necessarily have chosen it for myself as far as the method in which she did the research. The type of research that she used, I feel, did not support the findings with much validity. A self-study is far too objective, and there are way too many variables that can be altered by the researcher in order to produce the desired result. A self-study would, however, prove to be helpful if it was included in some other database result. So in other words, if she had a empirical evidence that, here's the numbers, by reflecting upon my own actions, I improved these scores, etc., along with the reflection itself. I feel like that would be helpful, but that's not the case in this dissertation. This dissertation strictly speaks of self-study and a reflection, and I feel like it's far too opinion-based, and there's not enough hard evidence to back any of it. That is what I think about that.